Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 45th episode and season 2 premiere of Visioncon Live, your go-to nerdy talk show. I'm your host, Zach Wilson. You didn't come here to see me today. You came to see the man of the hour. He's Rigby from Regular Show, Doc Ock from Spider-Man PS4 and PS5, Yoshida from Persona 5, just to name a few. He's the legendary performer here to help us kick off 2021 and season 2 with a bang. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome the one, the only Bill Salyers. Bill, how are we doing today?
Great. It's a kick to be here with you, Zach. I can see that you're very good at what you do. No, it's weird times for all of us. So everything we could do like this, where we get together and celebrate each other a little bit, is I think a good thing.
Oh, I couldn't have said that better myself. No, don't give me too much credit. We're only 2 minutes in. And I will say your background is very fitting, especially kind of where we are right now. For audio listeners, it's he's got a room on fire.
Yeah, I feel like it's truth in advertising. It's just like, my room is not literally on fire, but metaphorically the whole world is. So there you go.
Well, it's kind of moments like these where we need them now more than ever.
Right, exactly.
Well, kind of kicking off with things, I mentioned a lot of characters, that you have been playing for, the past, years now, and we'll get to those in a minute. But what I wanted to start us off with is, Bill, you're a household name, a legendary performer. But what I want to know is, how did we get here? Was showbiz always the plan, or did something happen later in life that kind of led you down this path?
That's a great question, Zach, and it's kind of both. I knew from the time I was a kid in high school doing plays that I wanted to be an actor. That was always my thing. But I had a very sort of traditional idea of what that would mean. At first, I thought it was all about theater, which is still my primary love. I really love to just get up on stage and entertain people. And then later on, when I got off the road from touring and landed in Seattle, I started to do more TV work, and I thought, well, maybe that would be a cool thing. So I came to LA to do more of that, and I did some of that. And then I sort of fell sideways into voiceover, and I enjoyed it so much that I really wish that I had gotten to it sooner. Wasn't prepared to recognize what success would look like if it didn't look like what I expected.
Mm. Well, and so was there ever a character that you kind of not maybe fell in love with? Because, obviously they're all, quite wonderful. But was there a character that you personally think really put you on the map?
Oh, for sure. It was Reverend Putty in Moral Oral.
Oh.
And that came... Thank you. I wouldn't be talking to you right now if it weren't for Scott Adsit, who's an old friend of mine. He was a regular on 30 Rock. He's the voice of Baymax in Big Hero 6. Huge improv talent, came from Second City in Chicago. And we met when I was doing a play here with his girlfriend, and we just hit it off, and he liked my work. And so when it came time for him to cast this show that he had for Adult Swim, he asked me to come in and read. I didn't really think I had a chance, because by then I'd heard how tough it is to break into voiceover alone, but specifically animation. And I was not at all nervous, because I thought it was going to be like, it was just a gesture on his part. I didn't think it would actually lead to anything. And so I think because I wasn't nervous, I booked the role.
Many a nights growing up, I definitely waited until my parents went to bed and turned on Adult Swim just to watch Moral Oral.
That's great. Yeah, that was a wise choice for most of America's parents. Yeah.
Well, plenty of other characters, many that I've mentioned earlier, you have been as well. And the first one I want to talk about, and guys, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about him. That, of course, is Rigby from Regular Show, the ever-lovable raccoon. So first question, before we dive a little deeper, I just want to go kind of an overview, kind of how'd you get the role, what the character kind of meant in your professional career, and kind of any fun little anecdotes involved with playing Rigby.
Oh my gosh. I mean, Rigby will always be close to my heart, and he's the role that I played the longest. We got 6 years to play with him. And what I'm probably most proud of is that, unlike Moral Oral, I had no connections to Regular Show or JG or Cartoon Network at all. And reading for something like that, auditioning for something like that, and booking it is rarer than being struck by lightning if you don't have some kind of an in, you know. And so in fact, because I had some experience but relatively little at the time, after they did the YouTube pilot that I played Rigby in, they put it back out to auditions again. Once it got picked up, they decided they wanted to look around and see if there was somebody they liked better for the role. And then after they spent a few weeks looking at other people, they asked me to come back in and read again. And I got the role twice.
Fair. So a lot of moments, are very near and dear to regular show fans' hearts. And a lot of them involve Rigby, but are there any of them that stand out to you, or some of your favorite moments, either funny, maybe a little sad, or somewhere in between, that involve you playing Rigby during the show?
Gosh, there were so many. My favorite things just on a daily basis tended to be the times where he did something so stupid that he got killed. Probably one of my favorite episodes is the episode Over the Top, where Rigby uses the Playco arm boy to beat Skips in arm wrestling. And pardon me. And so Skips can't believe that Rigby, this wimpy little raccoon, beat him. So he finally gets Mordecai to admit that Rigby used a device to win. Then they take it away from Rigby, make him arm wrestle Skips again, and Skips puts him down so bad he goes through the table and dies. And then Skips has to arm wrestle death to get Rigby back. And I really like that one. And then probably the other moments would be the ones that are counterintuitive, where he's actually ahead of where you think he should be. Like, we found out, that he was dating Eileen almost sort of matter-of-factly while Mordecai was still freaking out about Margaret and CJ. We found out that Rigby had kind of like solved his romantic problems without any big deal. So I really got a kick out of that.
He's definitely a character you often underestimate and probably shouldn't.
Yeah, exactly. Well put.
Well, kind of switching gears from a very much a comedy show with some slight more realistic and kind of introspective parts in it, I'll switch gears to a much more serious role, which that of course is Doc Ock, or rather Dr. Otto Octavius, from Spider-Man PS4 and PS5. So again, before we dive deep into it, were there any kind of an overview look? How'd you get the role? Any fun anecdotes involved in getting it? And maybe even a unique perspective on it?
Well, they were super cagey about what we were reading for, and I literally didn't know. So they had described the audition without using any references to Spider-Man, any references to Otto Octavius, and he was presented as kind of a maybe sort of socially inept genius who was working in his lab and trying to explain what he was doing to people. And I was always a science geek, and so that was pretty easy for me. And they had me do the material from the audition, and then they said, well, okay, now do it again this time, and this time don't worry about the words, just sort of improv it. And so it's always interesting when they ask you to improv science, but it went well, and they ended up giving me the role, and I credit that largely to just looking at what was on the page rather than bringing sort of expectations from what I already knew about the classic Marvel character.
Well, and obviously, fans of Spider-Man, obviously knew Otto would probably become the antagonist eventually. But I gotta say, fuck, man, you did such a great job just conveying a man who was just consumed by ambition and revenge and kind of his slow descent into maybe not so much madness, but really just letting that consume him and change him so drastically from the man Peter looked up to. So throughout that series of events and just playing the character, obviously you were playing this character, but was there ever a moment or moments where his descent into becoming this antagonist kind of maybe got to you?
Oh, for sure. To start with, I mean, I'm not young. I've been doing this for a long time, and so I've experienced a lot. I've experienced a lot just in life. I know what it's like to be the bad guy. I know what it's like to want to be the good guy. I know what it's like to let pride get in my way, you know? So a lot of that was very relatable to me. And I can't speak highly enough of the writing. You know, I thought the whole, the writing team just excelled in presenting a villain who was three-dimensional, fully understandable, you know, relatable even. I mean, you could see had that story gone a different way, you could see that Doc Ock becoming, you know, a fellow crime fighter with Spider-Man, you know, because what he ultimately wanted was to do the right thing. He just had a warped idea of what that was.
Which is honestly the scariest part of that is, you know,
Hmm.
it's kind of an everyday thing that can happen. I mean, granted, we don't all have a genius mind and, you know, autonomous back arms, but
Right. Yeah, well, I think that's a great villain. I think it's very easy to paint bad guys in two dimensions, and then there's that villainy is much less tragic than somebody who comes to bad conclusions trying to do good things.
oh yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of a guy who's trying to do good things, I want to talk about a bit of a smaller role compared
Mhm.
to the other two, but nonetheless very important. That, of course, is Yoshida from Persona 5.
Yeah.
So, again, before we dive deep into it, any overview, kind of how'd you get the part, any unique approaches to the character, anything at all?
That was a straight up audition that I got through a producer, and it was very sort of in terms of the job, I would say almost perfunctory. I mean, I think it was one session, and so I came in and I wasn't that familiar with the character, so they had to explain to me who he was and what he did, and they would also play for me the Japanese seiyu's original interpretation of the lines, and yeah, it wasn't until later that I kind of realized that, oh, this character's kind of part of a pretty big deal franchise. So yeah, I would say that I didn't realize at the time what I was a part of, and it was a thrill to find out later.
Well, and Persona is a game series where you can easily miss very riveting characters because, you know, these
Mhm.
characters, at least the side ones, are technically, at least most of them are technically optional. And
Mhm.
I'll admit, I played the original Persona 2 twice, and then obviously Persona Royal, so 3 times technically. The first time, I didn't even talk to Yoshida.
Yeah.
But then I was talking to a couple friends, and they're like, "Why did you not talk to him? He has one of the most riveting social links." I'm like, "All right," or I forget the exact verbiage for Persona 5, but and I was like, "All right, all right." So I
It's
went
like
through
confidant or something.
confident
Confidant.
that's
Yeah.
the one. But so I went back, and you know, in my second playthrough, I focused a lot on the ones that I kind of skipped over, Yoshida being one of them. And oh my God, his story of just like his self-doubt and kind of rising to the occasion, kind of how the protagonist helps him throughout the way. I mean, oh my God, it's
Mhm.
just so riveting. And you know, they were absolutely right, and I was a fool. But
Yeah,
so
it's super relatable. I mean, because I think we've all had moments of self doubt.
sure.
But what makes somebody like him incredible is the willingness to keep coming back and trying over and over again, and knowing that you're the real deal, even if other people don't recognize it.
Yeah. Well, and kind of on that note, obviously Yoshida goes through this, you know, hero's journey of sorts with the help of the protagonist to get from kind of the low self-esteem person he is to kind of rising to the occasion, becoming more confident, raising his self-esteem, and you know, being the politician that he really wants to be. So, kind of throughout the duration, was there ever a point while playing Yoshida where you kind of began to draw parallels maybe to when you first started being an actor and kind of maybe the confidence you had to build in order to get to where you are today?
For sure, and I think stuff when you've been doing it as long as I have, that tends to happen sort of subconsciously. You don't necessarily draw a conscious parallel. It's more just the relatability of like, oh, I remember what it was like to be this guy. I remember what it was like to have people doubt me, or I remember what it was like to have people, slander me, tell lies about me. You know, that all of that is something that I can relate to on a personal level, and I think. People who've been around for a while can all relate to that stuff on a personal level.
Mhm. All right, well, guys, I will mention real quick before we continue that a bunch of you have already messaged Visioncon directly your viewers' comments and questions. You still have time to do so because we're about approaching the halfway point, but you can also put in the live chat your viewers' comments and questions. I'll take questions from both, but just keep in mind that is an option that's still available to you guys. But next thing, so Bill, a lot of people who watch the show obviously are here for the wonderful guests that we have, one of which is sitting right before me. But the other reason that we've noticed a lot of people watch this show, or listen, if you're watching, or if you're listening now on Spotify, is that they are interested in either getting into the entertainment industry or already are and just want to know where to go next. So I want you to keep that in mind for these next two questions. The first of which being rejection. Now, as I always say, rejection is a part of life. You can't really escape it. However, if I were to say any industry where rejection would be more prevalent, it would definitely be your industry, which of course is the entertainment industry. So for the folks watching at home that either want to get in the entertainment industry or already are, just want to know where to go next, how would you advise them to deal with rejection when it inevitably happens? Does it get any easier? Or if it doesn't, what can they do to make it easier to swallow when it inevitably does happen?
Another great question. It is a part of it. It never stops being a part of it. Even if you hit a little vein of gold like I did with a regular show, you know that it's going to end eventually and you're going to be back auditioning for things. And the one thing that I would say specifically about auditioning is there's a world of difference in how bad you feel after a rejection if you have done everything you can to prepare or if you haven't done everything you can to prepare. And I've been on both ends of that, where what life got in the way. I underestimated, what it would take to prepare for an audition. And it's rare, I like to think, but I walk away from one or two going, wow, I didn't do all I could do for that. And that's a hard place to be, because all any of us have, even if we do impeccable preparation, if we're tremendously talented, all those things, all any of us has is a chance. And if you blow that chance because of something you did or didn't do, it's much harder to take.
Guests before have said it's not about you. It's nothing against you.
That's right.
They found somebody maybe not better, but just what they were looking for.
That's exactly right. A friend of mine, again, Scott Adset, said it's like a tie. They're going to pick a tie. You might be a blue tie. Maybe they decide they want a red tie. And, it really is like that. There's no personal animus. They don't care. They're just trying to get a thing done,
Sure. Okay. I dig it. Well, in that similar vein, is there any general advice that you advise the folks watching at home that, when, of course, get into the entertainment industry or already are, want to know where to go next? Is there any general advice that you would give them? Maybe advice that you wish you had when you first started out?
Yeah, I wish I had been more open to success not looking like I thought it would look.
Ooh.
Because I spent a lot of years thinking that my payday was always going to come from either being on camera or on stage. Even after having done a few voice gigs early in my career, I never really thought that was the thing that was viable for me. It was kind of an over there thing that was kind of fun and trippy, but it's not really what I do. And I think if I had been open to that earlier and pursuing it earlier, I would have even more under my belt than I do now. And so I wish that would be my advice to people is be prepared to say yes to things that don't necessarily fit your idea of what success looks like, because you might be surprised.
Oof. Anybody expecting just a standard follow your dreams quote? Thankfully. All righty, guys. Now is your guys' last chance. If you haven't already, either message Visioncon directly or put it in the live chat, your viewers' comments and questions, because ladies and gentlemen, for the first time in 2021 and season 2 of Visioncon Live, we're in the plug zone. Bill Salyers. Now is your opportunity to plug, promote, advertise, whatever verb you want to use, anything you want. The floor is yours, sir.
Oh, gosh. I found out recently, I was kind of hoping I could announce it on the show today, but it came out earlier. I found out that I am able to talk about playing Hoffman in the new Turtle Rock Back for Blood, which is the spiritual successor to Left for Dead. And so, which I loved. I mean, who doesn't love killing zombies?
Exactly.
And you know, there's no moral qualm there. Zombie, you die. And so, having played both 1 and 2 of Left 4 Dead, and really enjoyed it, and being actually envious of those voice actors and thinking, man, what a great gig that must have been to be part of that cadre of, like, you know, little zombie hunter cadre, and now I get to be that for Back for Blood, and it's really exciting. So that should be coming out, I think, sometime mid-year, sometime around June, I believe.
And then where can they, and I feel like I need to word this better, but I never think of a better way to word it. Where can the folks watching home get their daily dose of Bill? You know, is there Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, anywhere at all?
Well, thank God there's a vaccine for that now. But you know, if people people can always hit my my fan page, which is on Facebook. You know, people have told me that I should be involved in Cameo, or one of those sites where you can actually get merch from your favorite personalities. But I've never tried that. Maybe your viewers can help me make that decision, whether or not they would be interested in voice messages, that kind of thing, for me, if I were to make that available.
Hell yeah. Yeah, you guys heard the call to action. And for those watching live on Facebook, I got all those links in the live chat right here. If you guys are watching later on YouTube or listening on Spotify, got all those links both in the description, the YouTube description, or the Spotify description, kind of depending on how you're watching it. But with that, guys, we're coming out of the out of the plug zone, going right into viewers' comments and questions. So like I always do, guys, just going to do it about 50-50. Do some in the messenger and then some in the live chat. So give me just one sec. Whew. All right. So Raylene tuned in and wanted to tell you that she thinks that you are the coolest dude on the regular show, and wanted to know if you could say a sentence as Rigby and say her name, and she says her name's not Rigby, Raylene.
Okay. All right. Raylene. Hey, Raylene. Always remember, ham boning will save your life someday. Ham boning.
It's adorable. All right. Okay, so Charlotte tuned in and told you, hi, Bill. I just wanted to know, do you have any fun hobbies aside from voice acting?
Wow, that's really cool. You know, it's a nerdy, typical answer, but I'm a gamer. I really enjoy. I'm even enjoying Cyberpunk 2077.
Oh, I
know that's a horrible thing to say, but I am. I'm enjoying it.
Well, and I might be a bit skewed because I'm playing on my PS5. No one come into my house and try to steal it. But probably shouldn't be saying that on a national platform. But yeah, I'm playing on my PS5 and it's working great.
Yeah, I'm a PC gamer. I'm horrible with controllers. I'm a bad button smasher. But yeah, but I understand also, because I didn't get it at first when people were talking about, oh my gosh, this game's so horrible, and then I read more about it, and some of my followers on Twitter set me straight about it being really all aimed at the higher end consoles, which is not good for people that have been in the consoles for a long time.
Though I will say the what's the word I'm looking for? The low res Johnny Silverhand memes that were made as a result, God killed me.
Yeah. It was almost unbelievable. I was like, wow, okay, you got a point. Yeah, I got to give it to you.
But speaking of Twitter, actually, Ryan tuned in and said, hey, Bill, I just want you to know that you're my favorite person to follow on Twitter.
Wow, that is really, well, I appreciate that. I am pathologically honest on Twitter, which will probably bite me on the butt a lot. But what are you going to do? It's like, I'm not good at pretending to be what I'm not.
All right, Aaron tuned in and said, any favorite Doc Ock memories when you did Spider-Man?
For sure. And, it's kind of corny and predictable, but it was the very last scene between Doc and Peter because I know and love Yuri Lowenthal. Like he is a great guy, and I've known him for years. And playing that scene with him where I essentially ask him to shield me from the cops and protect me from the responsibilities for the consequences of my action. That felt to me like Bill talking to Yuri more than Doc talking to Spider-Man, and that I think we both benefited from that throughout the shooting, that whole process, because a lot of people think that we were just voice actors, and that was full motion capture. So for Yuri and I and many of the other people doing the game, that was like being in a movie. We acted out the scenes, and that familiarity with Yuri, I think, really came through to the benefit of the material.
Oh, and it definitely showed too, the kind of
Good.
impact of it. But kind of seamless transition into the next question. It's almost as if you can see the messenger. Is Dallas tuned in and said, "Were you friends with Yuri before the Spider-Man, or did that happen afterwards?"
No, I knew Yuri for years. Like Yuri is another guy who was on the theater scene, and so I had met him here in LA at various theater events, and we were members briefly of the same company, and then once I started working as Rigby, I ran into him more and more because he was always around Cartoon Network, and he was just somebody that I immediately had a deep respect and fondness for, because he's 100% genuine. When you see Yuri, that's who Yuri is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's such a great guy too. And Yuri, if you're watching this, we're all big fans. And also maybe check your emails. I might have emailed you something like a few months ago. Anyway, I lost it up. Okay, so Connor tuned in and wanted to know, are there any roles that you've done over the years that you wish kind of had more recognition?
Yeah, I would say Reverend Putty in Moral Oral, because now that's dark humor and it's not for everybody, but I really loved it, and I still to this day have a really soft spot in my heart when people are like, yeah, Ribby was great, Doc Ock, whatever, but Reverend Putty. I'm like, you're old school, you're OG. So yeah, I really enjoyed that character, and I get a kick out of talking to the people who really enjoyed him as well.
Well, then it might be a similar answer to this next question. We've got time for about two more. Lauren tuned in and said, "Hey, Bill, what are some of your favorite characters that you voiced over the years?"
Reverend Putty for sure. I mean, I'd have to say Rigby, sure. But it was a great honor to me to be asked to voice the Penguin in the last two Batman 66 animated movies, where we still had, bless his heart, Adam West was still with us. And so you had Adam West voicing Batman, you had Burt Ward voicing Robin, and I got to stand in for the Penguin in that classic old Burgess Meredith way. And it was a real kick, and it was like getting to be one of the parts of my own youth. So that was really fun.
All right, and the last question before we sign off is from Alex, and he said, "Hey, Bill, is there ever any part of being a famous voice actor that you don't really like?"
Gosh, that's great. Well, I don't. Maybe this will help answer the question. I don't really think of myself as famous. I think of myself as an actor who has done some high profile jobs, and outside of things like this, which you're making very easy on me, and I appreciate it. It's often. Let's just say that I know a lot of people who are faces in their industry who are very highly recognizable, and I don't know that I'd be good at that. I really like being able to walk down the street and not have anyone know me unless I choose to out myself, or if it's the rare 1 in 1,000 VA freak who actually knows what I look like.
Well, I mean, agree to disagree, Bill.
Okay, thanks, Zach.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's about all time we got for episode 45 and the season 2 premiere of Visioncon Live. Now, before we sign off, Bill, any final thoughts or words of wisdom to kind of leave us on?
Stay safe, gang. It's a weird time. Stay safe and love each other.
Couldn't say it better myself. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode 45 of Visioncon Live. Thank you guys so much for watching. Of course, I'm your host, Zach Wilson, but much more importantly, this was my very special guest, Bill Salyers. Make sure to check out all the links down in the description box below if you're watching on YouTube, or in the description on Spotify if you're listening later on Spotify. And until next time, guys, always remember that life's better when you have friends to share it with.